Oh, that forward. Croeso bawb, dosbaitha, Peter ydw i o Gorllewin Cymru. So I just said good evening, welcome everybody. I'm Peter and I'm from West Wales, not West Virginia. But hey, we are joined across the water and we're firm friends. So, I may be Peter, but this is Myra. Now Myra, when she was a little girl, she grew her bangs long to cover her deep sea green eyes. And that meant she couldn't see anybody, but it also meant that they couldn't see her. She was invisible. Myra was born on what we call in Wales Calan Gaeaf. It's what you would probably call Halloween. Yeah, that day when the veil between this world and the other world is at its thinnest, and people can pass into the other world, all the strange creatures, the ghosties, and can pass into our world. Back then, we used it to remember our ancestors. Now, of course, it's all people dressed in sheets and witches with green makeup and blood dripping from their mouths. You know the whole scene. Trick or treating. But on that day, the other world visited Myra. She had a foot in both worlds, and boy did she get up to mischief. She loved dressing up, and her favourite thing, she loved going to funerals, dressed in red amongst all the crow black. She got into such trouble. Early in her life, she saw the Mari Lwyd. Now, you may not know what the Mari Lwyd is. It's a very old tradition. It's a horse's skull on a pole, held by somebody dressed in a sheet, and they go round, begging for food, singing songs, dancing. Myra, she knew the man who was inside the horse. He was called Will Evans. He was the local shoemaker. And when he went round with the Mari, he would try and sell his shoes to the people who were following the horse, or the houses they went to. Myra was a fish girl, or at least according to her father, who was a fisherman. He had a ship called the Rosina, and he travelled all over to Ireland, even occasionally to the west coast of Africa. Myra sat on the end of the quay, gutting the herring, salting them, and then taking them round the town to sell them for her dad. While she was doing this, she collected stories, folk tales, fairy tales, tall tales, true tales, any kind of story. Captain Jones here, he told her that he once fought a giant octopus and won. So Myra presented him with her favourite recipe, which was octopus salad. Yeah, it wasn't octopus, it was actually cheese. You know those round cheeses, and she cut it into tentacles like that? Yeah, but she told everybody it really was octopus. She gathered stories from the old woman who lived on the beach with her chickens. And all her chickens had names. There was Ruth, Biddy, Lady, Jonathan. I could spend all night, but I won't. She lived in the no man's land between the high tide mark and the cliffs, where she paid rent to no man. Despite them constantly taking her to court, they never got a penny out of her. Myra gathered all these stories. She wrote them down. She placed them in a biscuit tin underneath her bed, so she could read them at night, and especially in case her father never came home. Fishing was dangerous back in those days. All her 5 uncles had all died at sea, all her father's brothers. When she opened the tin, the stories escaped, and the other world came into our world. Morwen, the mermaid, Morwen means white sea. who fell in love with a fisherman called Rissin. And when he told her he was about to be married the following day, she whipped up a storm that flooded all the houses along the coast of West Wales. And that's why when you look at a map of West Wales, there's a big gap like that that's full of water. It's all down to her. Yeah. A lady who lived, you know about the romantic stories about the Lady of the Lake. Oh yeah, not where I come from, the Lady of the Mill Pond. She lived in the mill, and the young miller's son, he fell passionately in love with her, but she kept disappearing every time he kind of came on to her. But eventually they did get married, and he went to live in the other world underneath the water, where there was no time, nothing, no clocks, no night, no day. And then there was dear old Betty. Everybody loved Betty because she made potions from all the herbs in the wood, but not just any old potions. She made you've got it. Oh, I can sing this as Reach West Virginia too. Love potion. You can imagine the queues around her cottage waiting to get their dose of love potion. And another mischievous old lady, she gave the potion to 2 babies. And when they turned 18, they fell passionately in love. And Betty explained that they were doomed to be in love for all time. Which didn't bother me in the slightest. And then, this is the Corach Kochbach, the little red man who could make wishes come true. And there was a little boy who was born with a club foot. Do any of you remember what a club foot is? One great big foot and one normal sized foot. So the boy made a wish and said, I'd like 2 feet the same size. Done, said the little red man. And the boy ended up with 2 great big club feet. Which he didn't mind because he was brilliant at soccer. And then there was this story which I'm going to go through incredibly quickly. There it is. This is about, you know this story, about a woman who lived in a farmhouse and she was spinning, she had a little baby and she was spinning clothes from the wool that the sheep left on the benches, and she was so tired in the warmth of the fire, and then a little old woman called and walked in and said, what would you give to me if I were to spin all the wool for you? And the woman said, I would give you anything, I am so tired. The little old woman set to work, and in the blink of a crow's eye, she spun all the wool. And the woman said, oh, thank you, how can I repay you? What would you like? And the little old lady said, your baby. My baby? You can't have my baby, he's my life, my joy. Now, undo your work. And the little old lady said, no. The deal was done, and it was sealed by the Tylwyth Teg. The little people, the hidden people. You might call them the fairies. But I will come each night for 3 nights, and if you can guess my name, your baby will go free. Well, she blathered out 3 names. That's something. Jacob, she said. She said, Joshua, she said. She said, Mark. No. And the little old lady ran off, cackling at the top of her voice. Following evening, she came again. And she said, what's my name? And she thought for a moment and said, maybe it would be Anique. Maybe it would be Barbara. Maybe it would be, what's her name mentioned? Shall we have your name? Okay,
Lauren.
No name. It was no name. And even that wasn't the right name. Well, the woman was panicking now. She picked up a baby. She ran all the way down to the river, running through the woods, her heart beating. She came to the woods and she heard singing by the river. And there by the river were birds, all flicking their tails. Wagtails. We call them in Welsh. Shiggledy-good. Shiggledy-good. And there was a little old woman singing. Little does she know my name is Shiggledy-good. 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 Well, the woman's heart was pounding. She rushed back to the farmhouse, and when the little old lady came in, she said, so what's your name? What's my name? Would it be Sianed? No. Would it be cereal? No. And that little old glancing at the baby now, and she said, would your name be? Shiggle-diggle. Well, the little old lady, well, steam poured from her ears, green goo from her nose. Come down. Green goo from her nose, dribbled from her mouth. She turned the air blue with her swearing. She stamped her foot 3 times on the floorboards, made a great hole, and vanished forever, never to be seen again. Myra also knew a story about a little girl who could turn into a bird. She flew through the air, and she watched everything below her. She knew the whole story, all the stories of the town. She was magic. And when she grew older, she told all her stories to her 6 children. You see, Myra was real. There she is. She's not a fairy tale. She gathered fairy tales and folk tales. There she is when she got a little bit older. And older still. And you might wonder how I know all this. It's because when Myra was 45, she had one last child, a girl called Yola. I was so lucky many years ago, 20 odd years ago, I got to know Yola. I used to go around and visit her, and she told me all the stories that her mum told her, and her mum had kept records, an archive of tales, music, recipes, everything from the folk culture. We call it the Gwerin, the folk culture. And you see, without people like Myra, and the many people you have here, many in this room now, who are gathering stories, gathering music, working together, creating cranky festivals. There would not be a Morgantown Crankie Festival. Give thanks to all the people from the folk traditions.